Northwestern last week announcing a $480 million donation, the largest in university history, from the school's biggest benefactors, Pat and Shirley Ryan. Included in the gift, funds to rebuild Ryan Field, the stadium which is already named after the Ryan family. They were the lead donors in its last renovation. This the capstone to the school's $6 billion fundraising campaign. And that transitions us to today's big interview as we welcome in the Vice President of Athletics and Recreation at Northwestern, Dr. Derrick Gragg. Derrick, let's start with defining some terms here. Rebuild Ryan Field. Does that mean you knock it to the ground and you start over? Does that mean you renovate it in the existing structure? Tell me what a rebuild is.
Well, everything's on the table right now, and obviously want to thank the Ryan family, Pat and Shirley, their sons, just a fantastic family, and it's a transformative gift. So we'll have a lot of leeway to look at a lot of different things, from tearing it down. Do we keep the towers? Do we just start from scratch? So right now we're hard at it. We've already had 6 architect teams on site that started the process, and then we're going to move through it through October and hopefully wind down to 3 architects and then down to 1 over into November. And then we're really going to start looking at where we go next.
Well, that is my next question. Where do you go next? When might this happen? Is this something where at the end of this football season, perhaps you think about starting, or are we still a couple seasons away from it?
No, I think we'll start after next season. We didn't want to do it too immediate. We still have to go through some clearances with the city, obviously, and sit down and talk to the city council people, the mayor, and talk about the scope of the project and make sure that we include them along the way. So we didn't want to start it too early. We want to make sure we get everything right as far as the groundwork is concerned. And then we're looking at probably a 2-year build right now, where we would play somewhere else for 2 seasons and then come back the following year.
Fair to assume that somewhere else might be Soldier Field or Wrigley Field. I know you're playing a game there this year. You played one a number of years ago against Illinois. Are those kind of the 2 possibilities?
Oh, absolutely. And looking at maybe playing at both of them, depending on what type of season, obviously, the Cubs are having and how deep they're going into their season. But we're having a lot of talks with Soldier Field and some talks with Wrigley as well. So we're excited about that. We think that will also be something that the incoming student athletes will really enjoy, playing at a different venue. But you don't want to stay away too long. And so hopefully with the timeline, we'll be able to get back into our new stadium as soon as possible.
Derrick, what are some of the things other than the stadium that you want to move forward with the athletic department?
Well, right now we're looking at strategic planning, and in a transition like this, as you can imagine, there are a lot of moving pieces. So we're trying to fill some holes as far as our staff. We just hired a new chief of staff, Monique Holland, who's coming in from Auburn, who I met at SMU years ago. We have Tyler Jones, who's a former football player at Eastern Michigan University, who's coming in. He's going to lead our external unit. We have Jesse Marks, who's a great fundraiser from Miami, the Dolphins, and from the University of Miami. And Eileen O'Rourke, we just basically elevated her. She's going to run our academic unit. So right now we're filling a lot of holes on the staff. We're going to get a strategic plan together. Another facility that we're looking at heavily is the softball field. We need to do something with our softball stadium. So we want to make sure that we continue to talk about that project as we do the football stadium, because that's very important as well. And just a lot of different things. We want to make sure that we ensure that we finish in the upper echelon of our conference every year and in the chase for the Learfield Cup. And we're doing a lot of talk about that, but you can't just talk about it. You have to have a plan. So that's what we're working on right now.
Derrick, you and I have a shared experience at Vanderbilt. You were a student athlete, football player. I was a coach, and you mentioned Eastern Michigan, so you're athletic director at Eastern Michigan, then Tulsa, and now Northwestern. Difference in managing an athletic department in a public institution and a private institution?
It is, Coach. So much of what you do at the public institutions is a lot of light is shined upon it. So you'll have to worry about your communications a lot, your emails, where your texts are going, and those types of things. And not that you don't have to be concerned about that at a private institution, but when I was at Tulsa, our president there said, and that's a private institution as well, told me that things can move a lot quicker at private institutions because you don't have to jump through as many hoops sometimes. And if you have a great idea and you have some funding behind it, you can get things going. So obviously that's been the case here at Northwestern. I think that they've really set the bar as far as facilities in general go. And when you're talking about Ryan Fieldhouse and you're talking about Welsh Ryan Arena, where I am right now, and Walter Athletic Center, some of the premier athletic facilities in the country. And so it's been great to get to know the people around here. And, I've been in a lot of different institutions. This is my 7th different stop. And I love the people here. I love the fact that everybody bleeds purple, and we have a lot of support. So I'm looking forward to the next steps.
Derrick, just think about it. You were a wide receiver in a wishbone, eyebone offense. How much money you could have made with the NIL. I mean, we threw the ball 5 to 8 times a game. But look at the NIL as a former student athlete, now as an athletic director. Look at the transfer portal, those issues, positives and negatives of NIL and transfer without penalty.
Well, that's a great point, Coach. And not only did you throw it, we only threw it 5 or 8 times. You always threw it to somebody else. You didn't throw it to me. So I'll put that out there first.
Some residual bitterness here. I don't blame you.
But no, it's great for the student athletes. I think it's very positive to be able to give student athletes choices and for them to be able to definitely capitalize and monetize their own names and their own brands. That's very, very important in today's world. As for the portal, it gives them an opportunity to maybe explore other opportunities, other avenues. Sometimes we don't make the right decisions as young people, and so sometimes it's good to give them an opportunity to go somewhere else. The negative side of it is, though, that I think it causes a lot of additional distraction. And when I played ball 30 years ago, it's amazing how long ago that was. We didn't have the distraction that these student athletes have today. There were no cell phones, no Twitter, Instagram, all the social media, Facebook, all the things that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. We didn't have that. And then to add NIL, what we're concentrating a lot on is educating the student athletes and trying to ensure that no one takes advantage of them, make sure that they understand how taxes work and those types of things. So I do think it's a great thing, but we have to help them stay on top of it.
Not every athletic director has played a sport. Not every athletic director has played football. Your conversations with Coach Fitz, does it ever get to X's and O's? I know you're very supportive of him, but how deep do the X and O conversations go?
Well, it's good that I'm a football guy to be able to talk to the football coach. We don't get too deep into the X's and O's. When I worked for Coach Bruz at Arkansas, he was an old coach, so he would actually go to the offensive team meetings and sit in and ask questions. But I've never done that. I trust him completely. He's one of the best coaches in the nation, and I just like greeting him coming off the field because win or lose, I know he's going to come back as the same guy. He's going to get the guys motivated, and he's going to get them ready for the next week.
All right, I'm going to turn it back to Reva. I apologize for not throwing the ball more to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's talk.
It's too late, Coach. You can't apologize for it.
Yes, these are hollow apologies. Let's talk about your time with Coach Donato. I've already asked you when you were introduced to tell me the most embarrassing Donato story, and you didn't really want to go there because, truthfully, you had really positive things to say. I mean, I think there were a handful of people that you thanked unprompted in your introductory news conference, and Coach Donato was one of them. So let's go the other direction. What were the biggest things you learned from playing for Jerry that you've taken forward in your career?
Well, number one, and this is kind of fundamental, but be on time. Coach D didn't mess around. If you were on time, you were late. And we learned that very, very soon and quick. I remember myself and Clarence Avillion, who was the other starting receiver, we woke up about 5 minutes before a meeting we were supposed to be at, and we run down the steps. We didn't even get on the elevator at the hotel. It was the day before the game, and Coach D would not have hesitated to suspend both of us, even though we were the top 2 receivers. So we learned punctuality, we learned being on time, we learned being a man of your word, and we learned execution. And our tagline at the time, which is the same here at Northwestern, which is great, was win, W-I-N, what's important now. And we always had to live in the moment, concentrate on what we were supposed to do on and off the field. And a lot of us, not just me, but we talk about Coach D a lot in these circles. There was a picture on Facebook the other day circulating about the first time we went to Bell Buckle and how we stopped about 2 miles from that campus. And then we didn't know what was going on. They ordered us off the bus, and we had to run the other 2 miles into the camp. But when you had to do stuff like that, that taught us a lot about resilience, about being prepared. You have to be prepared because you never know what's going to happen. That's the game of football and the game of life. And so I say this all the time. I owe Coach a lot, and he did a lot of stumping for me to come back to Vanderbilt as a very young professional to start my career there.
Derrick, I want to ask you one last question. The week beginning this coming Saturday is Mental Health Awareness Week, and I know this strikes really close to home for Northwestern. Ryan Helinski, who has become the starting quarterback for the football team, lost his brother Tyler to suicide a number of years ago, and Northwestern is working in conjunction with their foundation, Helinski's Hope, coming up here this coming week. How do you hope to change the conversation around student athletes and mental health?
Well, first of all, our heart and thoughts and prayers go out to the Helinski family and any other family dealing with the suicide of a loved one, depression, mental health. What we want to continue to do is bring awareness. And back, again, 30 years ago when I played football, and Coach could attest to this, we were taught a lot of times to be tough, don't show any weakness, don't cry, don't talk to anybody about your problems. And so I'm so glad that we're in a new generation these days. And student athletes, by and large, across the country, when surveyed, listed mental health as their top concern even before the pandemic. So just imagine what the toll it has taken on a lot of our student athletes and students in general across the country since we've been dealing with the pandemic. So we have to make sure that we continue to bring awareness to that, make sure that our student athletes are touching base with our sports psychologists and we're getting them the assistance and the help that they need, and to eliminate the stigma that's attached to it sometimes. So please, people who need help, we want to make sure that you get it, and we're very, very supportive of that.
Well said. Dr. Derrick Gragg, thanks so much for your time. By the way, Jerry on our preseason bus tour tries to get Howard and Joshua and I to get off the bus and run the last couple miles too, but we won't stand for it.
Don't fall for it. Go all the way in.
Not true.
All right, thanks a lot, Derrick. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Derrick.
All right, thank you.